should be able to. Okay, thank you. Okay, so. So welcome again to our second session for Buddha Dhamma, Cure to the Mind, and a commentary to Medicine Buddha Sutra. So before we begin, let us start with a 5-minute silent meditation to gather our thoughts, and let us just focus on our breathing. So now let us take a few seconds to make sure that we're sitting comfortably, either on a chair or on the ground with legs folded. And for those of you who prefer in a sitting upright posture on a chair, please make sure that your both feet is flat on the floor. And you may remove your glasses if you have one. And let's rest our hands, our palms, making meditation gesture with 2 thumbs gently touching each other. Let us gently close our eyes, slightly bend, like tucking our chin. Relax our shoulders. Take a few deep breaths as we try to focus and being aware of the thoughts that we have. And when we are aware of the thoughts that we have, if we are thinking other than breathing, let us just gather our thoughts back to our breathing. It might take a few times for us to do that, but it is okay as long as we are aware that our thoughts is always on our breathing. And now let us start with our meditation. Sorry, I have to. Now let us slowly take in 3 deep breaths, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in again, breathing out. Let us slowly open our eyes, gently rub our palms together. Let us cover our palms on our eyes, the top of our head, over our ears to the back of our neck. Let's rub our palms together again. Massage our shoulders, arms, all the way to our fingers and wrists. Let us rub our palms one more time. Let us breathe in, breathe out as we bend forward. Massage our back, our thighs, knees, calves, all the way to our toes and feet. Okay, so you may put back your glasses if you have one. So today, I would like to share with everyone with the topic of Buddhism and healing. This is again a very general introduction in looking at the Medicine Buddha Sutra. Okay, so before we look into what I'm going to share with you all today, let us have a quick recap of what we have discussed last Saturday. So we all know that Medicine Buddha, or by the name of Vaishajya Guru, is known for curing dukkha using the medicine of the Dharma and practices. And when you look at the Sanskrit word Vaishajya Guru, it actually comprises of two words. Vaishajya is mainly referring to medicine in Sanskrit. Guru, it is referring to a teacher. This is the same, like for example, like I'm a Malaysian. So when I learned Malay, our national language, we use the same word as guru to refer as to a teacher. So it's very interesting to see the similarities between the Sanskrit and Malay language. Okay, so within the 12 great vows of the Medicine Buddha, the Buddha not only places the importance on the material aspects of life, like for example, like the daily necessities like food, clothing, shelter, the whatever that we need every single day, the necessities, but he also focused on the practices of removing the three poisons, which are greed, hatred, and ignorance, and of course afflictions. So if we look at as part of the introduction for today's sharing, sometimes we come across like this paragraph here that we know that the Buddha is also known as our teacher, and sometimes we also call the Buddha as the great doctor. It is because the Buddha, he was born as a human like 2,600 years ago. That is referring to Shakyamuni Buddha, the historical Buddha. But when we look at Medicine Buddha, we look at Amitabha Buddha, we look at so many different Buddhas where we might not know the name, but we just know the general term that refers to, that we call Buddha, which is referring to the enlightened ones, is someone who shared with us his personal journey in his practice, one's personal journey in improving oneself, in solving daily problems, and of course, in solving the dukkha or afflictions that we might have in this life, and also like in whatever that we're experiencing every single day. So that's the reason why the Buddha is also known as the great doctor or teacher who showed us and shared with us his personal experience, the Dharma, and also the truth of life. And the Dharma is referring to whatever sharing by the Buddha is just like a medicine that can cure both physical and mental problems. And monastics are like nurses that protect and help all sentient beings based on the Dharma that we learn, based on the guidance from the Buddha. So before we look into healing that part, let us recognize and get to know what is dukkha, what is suffering first. And I know that many of us have learned and have taken the core teachings class. So you might have come across this Buddhist terminology or the core teachings of dukkha. Okay, so sometimes the closest translation that we can find for this word dukkha is suffering. Okay, which dukkha do we experience from time to time? In other words, what are the dukkhas that we experience every single day? Okay, when it comes to dukkha, it's referring to something that we are not satisfied, we feel discomfort, we feel not at ease. Okay, so most of the time we can categorize into two dukkhas, which is the physical dukkha, which is the physical body, physical discomfort, and also mind, the mental dukkha. Okay, and dukkha, it is some part of our life, and we experience it from time to time. It is sometimes like when we talk about suffering, some of us might look at it as something very frightening. And of course, sometimes like if we're in this situation that we haven't really find a solution to solve the dukkha that we're experiencing at that point, we might feel stressed out, we might feel nervous, we might feel frightening. Well, that is part of the process. When we get to know dukkha, when we try to find the possible solution to whatever they're experiencing, it takes a lot of courage. It takes some time for us to figure things out. But one thing that we always remember, that dukkha is part of life, and we experience it like both physical and mental discomfort based on the causes and conditions that exist during that time. So when it comes to the causes and conditions that we experience during that time, we always remember that it is impermanence, it is ever changing, it's constantly changing. And of course, like when we put in effort in making a change, this causes and condition where we're experiencing dukkha, eventually it will change. Eventually will be solved by the application of Dharma, the application of the ways that we found that it is the most suitable solution. So physical and mental sufferings sometimes are due to genetical reasons, but at times they are caused by the three poisons in our mind. Like I'm going to elaborate more in the coming slides, but let us take one step in looking at the mental sufferings. Okay, so when it comes to mental suffering, sometimes we look at it specifically on the mental afflictions. Okay, so we ask ourselves, where do afflictions come from? We know that afflictions are a form of something that we haven't fully understand. And then we thought that it is this way, and we thought that this is like that, but it is because we haven't really seen the whole picture that makes us feel that this is the problem. Okay, and we might have misunderstood the whole truth of what is happening. So when we don't know the whole picture, sometimes it might give rise to worries. Sometimes it might give rise to stress. It is because we thought that whatever that we are seeing, whatever that we're listening, it is true. But again, it might not be the whole picture. It might not be the whole truth. Okay. So they stem from not being able to reason correctly. That is what the Buddha refers to the word ignorance. Okay? So sometimes mental afflictions, they arise internally, such as when there's a suspicion, whenever there's jealousy, or narrow-mindedness that takes over. Okay, so this is just at times. It doesn't mean that all the time. Okay, sometimes it's like that, sometimes it's not. Okay, but for us to really know what is dukkha, just like when we learn about the Four Noble Truths, we always start with the first noble truth. What is dukkha? We get to know what it is, but we get to know fully what we're experiencing during that time at this point. Only then we be able to take one step further to explore the causes that give rise to mental afflictions. Okay, so besides the what I've listed out in this slides, another one that we have in common when it comes to mental afflictions is the fear that we have. And why is there fear? It is because we are afraid of the unknown. Sometimes like we feel worried, we feel stressed out. It's because whatever that we are thinking in our mind, our mind give us a picture, the worst picture that might happen in the future, but it is not really the whole picture. It is not really the true picture. It is because our mind might just take a few key points, the keywords that we have at that point, and try to project based on the limited information that our mind has. So sometimes because of the unknown, because of what we think in our mind, it gives rise to fear. Okay, so and the other main key point of fear, why we feel fear, this is also one of the main mental afflictions, is we fear of losing. And this is also one of the two sufferings, the two dukkhas, is we are afraid of losing. If the ones that we love, we like, we hold on to, we have that kind of fear of losing. And of course, when it comes to one type of dukkha where someone or something that we dislike or we do not like or hate, it keeps on popping up. And whenever we are walking on the street, whenever we are in this situation, we don't want it to happen, but then because of the right causes and conditions, things just happen, not as according to what we plan. So that gives rise to a fear too. So, and of course, like fear, it comes in so many different stages of our life and how our mind looks at it. Sometimes we fear of changes. We are afraid of impermanence. Sometimes we are afraid of getting whatever that we don't want, losing whatever that we like. And of course, like when it comes to fear of unknown, sometimes it's referring to what will happen in the future, what will happen when we end this life. But it is all the mental afflictions that arise in our mind. It is the mind, it is because the mind holds on to the past, and the mind projects a picture in the future that is still not here yet. Okay, I'm not referring to planning. I'm not referring to whatever that we have in goal in life. But this is like when things happen, like for example, when we're in this situation where we plan for the best, for the things to happen, but all this while there was a huge storm. It started to rain, okay? Just like yesterday. And then we are not prepared for it. And then things, it just started to rain, and then just like flash flood, and looking out like where it was raining, and our mind started to project a picture looking at the rain, and then started to elaborate more in our mind, saying that, oh no, it started to rain a lot. Will the roof leak again? Start to feel worried about the roof. And then will the window be broken because of the strong wind? And it didn't happen yet. But the mind, just by looking at the rain and the strong wind, the mind started to give rise to fear of something that hasn't really happened. Okay, but this type of fear is not referring to prevention. Okay, like for example, when we know the weather forecast saying that it's going to rain, we prepared the worst. We might prepare the sandbags, we might prepare to seal off the windows, make sure everything is like closed tight, making sure that the drainage is all clear, that's not clogged. Being able to prepare beforehand, of course, like we won't give rise to fear in a way, because we know what will happen. But if eventually the weather change, there's no storm, just why not? And we just prevent from getting it worse, okay? But sometimes if moving from the physical, no, from the mental affliction, let us look at ourselves, okay, physically, okay? So let us ask ourselves, some of us might have issues like high cholesterol. Some of us might have issues with high blood pressure, high blood sugar, okay? So, or even like unable to sleep well at night. We ask ourselves, why is there physically, why do we experience high cholesterol in our blood, okay? So if we just look at the food that we eat, okay, this is the first step in examining whatever that we are eating, okay? But when we're eating, are we aware of how we eat, okay? So why did I ask this question? It is because when we eat, sometimes if it is our favorite food, what will be our reaction most of the time if we're not being mindful, not being aware? And of course, we will eat more because this is my favorite. This is something that I like. But when it comes to the food that I do not have preference in eating it, so what will be my action if I'm not being mindful? I might just skip that dish. So after a long time, okay, after a month, 3 months, a year, 3 years, and down the road, what will happen to our physical body? Okay, we will experience something that if we have high cholesterol, it could be because of genetical problems. It's not because from our current days eating habits or lifestyle. It could be something genetically, okay? But most of the time, partial of the time, is because of our diet, is because of our lifestyle, okay? So why is there issues like high cholesterol? Why is there issues of high blood sugar? Okay, it ties back to what is in our mind. It ties back to what the Buddha mentioned about the 3 poisons. When it comes to the things that we like, most of the time we give rise to the greediness in our mind. Oh, this is my favorite food, whether it is cheesecake, donut, or whatever that one's like. If we just go with our habitual tendencies, we might just take action without being aware of what we're doing. So after some time, the body cannot balance whatever that we put into ourselves. And that's the reason why it gives rise to all these reasons, all these results, okay? And insomnia, it could be because of the situation that we're in. It could be because of the situation in the family. It could be the situation that is happening at the workplace. That could be many, many, many reasons. But if we are able to take one step closer to get to know what gives rise to this effect, try to explore the causes, try to explore the conditions that make this happen. Only then we'll be able to solve the whatever mental afflictions, whatever physical discomfort that we're experiencing. So that's the reason why when we go through the 12 great vows of the medicine Buddha, okay, so we learn the first 2 great vows is, in a future lifetime, may I attain Anuttara Sammasambuddhi. May all sentient beings become illuminated and recognize this body of bright radiance as their own. So why Medicine Buddha hope that every one of us can recognize or illuminate the body, this body will be bright radiance as their own. Okay, this is like, if we look at our current situation right now, it is a metaphor that the Buddha used. If our mind is always clouded with worries, with stress, with afflictions, with so many problems that we haven't solved in everyday life, how does this mind look like? Just like the word that I just used, clouded. Our mind will not be clear. Our mind will not be able to see things clearly. It is because our mind is being entangled and clouded by the afflictions that we haven't really practiced, and we haven't really come to a stage where our mind is clear, our mind is pure, our mind is focused and calm. But the first great vow of Medicine Buddha, okay, before he shared with us his practices, he said that in his great vow, he hoped that every one of us can practice the Dharma, and eventually our mind, ourself, okay, this body is not only referring to the physical body, but it's mainly referring to our mind, can be bright and clear so that we can see things as it is. Okay. In the second great vow, the Medicine Buddha said that, may my body be as clear as a pure crystal, flawless and impeccable within and without. May all sentient beings, may all beings accomplish their endeavors according to their intentions. And of course, based on the second great vows, is Medicine Buddha mentioned about intentions. Okay, whatever that we do, or whatever that we plan for a certain things in life, we have to be really mindful of our intention. Is my intention, is it for the greater good, or is it for my personal satisfaction? Is my intention harming others or not? Is my intention is of wholesomeness or not? So intention, every one of us, when we want to do a certain things, when we want to say a certain word, phrase in life, there's always our mental karma first, which is we think in our mind first before we say it, before we do it. Okay. When we want to achieve certain thing, achieve a certain status, whether it is in an organization, even like achieving whatever that we have planned out, we have to make sure that our intention is pure. Only then, when we put in effort, we make it happen. And of course, like this is when Medicine Buddha said that may all beings accomplish their endeavors, meaning the practice, meaning the path that we are in, okay, according to our intention, according to our vows. What I vow to improve myself, what I vow to help others. When we do certain things, we always have to be mindful and be aware of the intention that we have in mind. Okay, so based on this, the first and second great vows of the Medicine Buddha, again and again, Medicine Buddha is reminding us that first thing is our mind has to be clear. Our mind shouldn't be clouded by our mental afflictions. And of course, our intention has to be wholesome, our intention has to be of righteousness. Okay, so knowing what gives rise, knowing all the afflictions that we're experiencing, knowing nirvana, knowing the ultimate perfections, but what is in the middle. Okay, so in the middle, meaning that what are the ways? Okay, how do we move? How do we solve our afflictions? How do we solve our problems? And how do we move from being a default mind to a pure mind? How do we transition? How do we improve ourselves from this shore of ignorance to the shore of enlightenment? Okay, it is what we look at today is the medicine. Okay, so for those of you who replied to my question, thank you for writing down your comments. A few days ago, I've asked everyone, what is medicine to you? Okay. Why did I ask this question? It is because the medicine that I take is not the same. It might not be the same as the medication that everyone is taking. So in this word medicine, of course, the first thing that we cross our mind is the pills, the medication that doctor might prescribe us to take when we're feeling discomfort, both physically and in our mind. But what I ask everyone about medicine, it is something that goes beyond the pills and tablets that we take every day. Okay. So I kind of like summarize based on everyone's comments, replied, and of course I add in a few based on what Venerable Master Xing Yun has mentioned about medicine. Okay, let us look at from left to right. Okay, so if you look at the one to the left, medicine for the body is referring to have a healthy diet or a balanced diet. Okay, not only a healthy and balanced diet, but we might need to opt for a balanced lifestyle. Okay, meaning that when it's time for us to work, we work. When it is time for us to exercise, we have plenty of exercise. When it is time for us to sleep, we take a rest, we take a sleep. Everything has to be balanced. Balance between practice, balance between work, balance the time with the family, have a balanced lifestyle. And of course, organic, it could be something that is raw, it could be something that is natural, be it the food, be it the environment that we are in, organic. And of course, medicine is taken when needed, okay? It doesn't mean that if we don't need it, we start eating food, we start taking pills, start taking medication. It's not like that. Only when needed, okay? And the second category that everyone's have discussed is, of course, like sufficient rest. Okay, just like what I mentioned earlier, when it is time for us to take a break, we take a break. When it's time for us to take a rest, we take a rest. Okay, sufficient. The word sufficient is the key word, meaning that sometimes we might feel sloth, a little bit lazy. We might give ourselves some excuse saying that today is for me to take a break. Don't worry about whatever that I haven't finished. Tomorrow. We have to be aware of this fine line here. Okay, whether this rest, is it necessary? Is it sufficient? Is it over? We won't be able to tell anyone. We can only tell ourselves. It is because we know ourselves the best, not others. Okay. Of course, when it comes to sleep, sleep is also the essential, the essence. Okay. When it is time for us to go to bed, we take a rest, we go to sleep. When we sleep, who is the busiest? Our brain. Our brain only then can start working, rejuvenate the whole body, repairing the organs, and then get ready physically for tomorrow's activities. So sufficient sleep is very important. It is because when we are experiencing physical discomfort, sometimes we might not have a good night's sleep. Some of us, when we have like cold, we have stuffy nose, or some of us might snore. Sometimes we might have like cough. It will affect our sleep. So when our quality of sleeping being affected, it will affect, of course, physically. And in our mind, we might feel stressed out. We might feel worried. And both of them are interconnected in many ways. Okay. So of course, like remedy, medicine could refer to cure and relief. Okay. So the next three categories I would like to discuss is more of like practice, focus on practice. Okay. So medicine, it also can be meditation. Some of us practice meditation day and night. When we wake up in the morning, we sit for meditate for some time. Before we go to bed, we meditate a little while before going to bed, or even sometimes like during lunch break. Some of us might take like 10 minutes or 15 minutes just to sit and just focus at the present moment, whether focusing on our breathing, focusing on the Buddha's name, focusing on reciting a mantra. There are many different ways for us to meditate. So when we meditate, we gather our thoughts, we focus our mind, and we regulate our breathing so that our physical and mental condition, it can recoup and can recover when we take a break for ourselves. And of course, like cultivation, reflection, quietude, or calmness, it is also referring to medicine to some of us. And of course, in our mental afflictions, for us to take medication is for us to apply the Buddha Dharma, is for us to apply the Buddha's teachings. Like for example, some of us might be a little bit quick-tempered and easily get frustrated, easily get uneasy in terms of the mind, or being angry of others. We can practice and remind ourselves to be compassionate. Okay, applying the Buddha Dharma of compassion, applying the Buddha Dharma of loving kindness, reminding ourselves again and again when we want to feel like biting our teeth or holding our fist. Again, we remind ourselves, okay, breathe. Try to be compassionate. Try to think for others. Why did this person do something like that? Is there a reason? Is there a certain condition that makes this person act like that? Okay, by breathing, by taking a pause to ourselves, reminding ourselves of, okay, being compassionate. Every one of us have our own view. Every one of us has our own ways of doing things. We try to listen. We try to cooperate with others. We try to see and try to examine all the causes and conditions that arise. So by applying the Buddha Dharma, it helps us in many ways in solving our mental afflictions. And of course, someone in our class mentioned that we'll recover from disease. It's very interesting to kind of like separate that word, disease. Okay, like disease, like having disease or discomfort, or dis-ease, don't feel at ease. And medicine could also refers to thinking positively or having hope in our mind. Okay. And the last category that I would like to share with everyone is medicine for us is also to uphold. It's just like upholding precepts. Why? If we want to create a harmonious family, harmonious society, harmonious community, a peaceful world, okay, it always starts from within ourselves, okay, in upholding precepts. Okay, when we uphold precepts, we always have in our mind not to harm others. Always remind ourselves to respect others, okay, so that we can coexist in this world. We are not taking for granted. We are not taking advantage of others. Okay, and this is the importance of upholding precepts. Okay, something that not only it is not lawful, but also it is not moral, it is not ethical. Okay, it is, if we break the precepts, if we don't uphold the precepts, okay, we won't remind ourselves to embrace others, to respect others, and to think for others. Okay, so when we uphold precepts, we'll be more aware of what we have in our mind, what we think in our mind, what we say to others, whether it is truthful or not, our action, whether will it give others inconvenience, whether our action will give others danger or hurting others or not. So that's the reason why medicine, it comes in so many different forms. Whether it is transcendental, where we try to apply the Buddha Dhamma, the Buddha's teachings, we try to contemplate on the importance of how to respect others, uphold the precepts. But of course, many of us also give, like in terms of like medicine, in terms of food, in terms of rest, in terms of physical needs. All this could be medicine. Just like before we begin our class today, we were like discussing the word medicine. Okay, we talk about dinner. For us, in the Buddhist temple, we don't call it dinner. We refer that as medicinal meal. It is because when it comes to dinner, we don't take a lot. We just take whatever that is sufficient, as if like the food that we eat is just like medicine to nourish our physical body so that we can continue our practice in the evening before calling a day. Okay, so that's the reason why in the Buddhist temple, we have breakfast, we have lunch, and for dinner, we call it medicinal meal. Okay, excuse me. So the 5 categories is just a general categories of medicine, and it's based on whatever that every one of you has replied in the comments. But let us look at the recommended ways in overcoming our afflictions. First one is we do not compare ourselves with others. Just like what I mentioned earlier, every one of us has the things that we know better. Every one of us has our own causes and conditions in experiencing, in handling, in facing the situation in our everyday life. So if others is better than us, it is something that we feel joyful and we congratulate others, and we try not to compare ourselves with others. Only then we can solve the problems of feeling jealousy because of others' achievements. Okay, if we don't give rise to jealousy, of course, we will overcome our afflictions. Okay, so when others is doing better than us, we congratulate them, we wish them well. Okay, do not expect others to do the things that we wish. Again, living in a community, whether it is in a workplace, in a family, sometimes like we won't be able to control what others is doing. Okay, we have no control towards others' action. We might advise, we might influence others, but we try not to expect others to do the things that we wish. Okay, because sometimes like people won't follow what we say. People will not follow whatever that we're being told. Okay, it is because others might have their own viewpoint. Others might have their own struggles. Others might have their own ways in handling whatever that they're experiencing. Okay, if we do not expect others, okay, to do the things that we wish, of course, like we will have one less affliction. Okay. We spend our time engaged in wholesome interests, like work and hobbies, because they can fend off innumerable unwholesome thoughts and indulgent behavior. So sometimes like some of us might experience a lot of worries, a lot of like feeling depressed. It is because we have time, we have more time being to ourselves, and then our mind start to think like, how do you put it? Just think out of nothing. Okay, it is because we do not have interaction with others. It is because we don't focus in doing the wholesome work or in wholesome hobbies, and we have more time. Only it is because there are plenty of time. That's the reason why sometimes some of us might just daydream and have a lot of like imagination that is going on in the mind, which is not true, which is not the fact, which is not whatever that is happening. Okay, so in a way for us to overcome our affliction, of course, is to spend our time positively, wholesomely. Okay, and it is the way I am. It is also something that we have to change and be aware of it. Sometimes like when we are being advised to change, being advised to say, oh, you shouldn't get angry because easily. It's just like you should think for others. And sometimes like our natural reaction, we will just react saying that, oh, it's the way I am. You don't know me. Okay. So sometimes we have this sort of thinking. This sort of thinking will keep us from improving and ridding ourselves from affliction. Okay. In this life or for ourselves, there's nothing that there's nothing that we are born like that. We are not like that in the first place, on the first day. Whatever attitude, whatever behavior, whatever that we think in our mind, all this are nurtured, not by nature. Okay. It is because we have done it once. It is because, well, we have think like that once. And when the similar causes and conditions are there again, we repeat the same reaction over and over again. And eventually it becomes our habit. Right? So there's nothing so-called it is the way I am. It is not the way I am. We can always improve. We can always change. As long as we are aware that this is unwholesome habits that we want to change. Okay. And of course, being attentive to others, okay, can also overcome our afflictions. Okay. So, okay. So lastly is, how do you overcome our fear? Just like what I mentioned earlier, fear is also like one of the mental afflictions. We try to know the unknown. How do we know the unknown? It is through the understanding of dependent origination. If everyone can still remember when Prince Siddhartha, as it sneaked out the palace, he had seen signs of sick people, aging people, and dead people. At that point, he was like pondering, why is all this happening? And in his mind, there's a little bit fear because his dad, his father, the king, will also experience sickness, aging, and death. Everyone around him, the whole family, will also experience sickness, aging, and death. And because of this, Prince Siddhartha, motivate himself in leaving the palace, try to find ways. He left the palace and tried to go and search for answers. Eventually, Prince Siddhartha realized full enlightenment and realized become Shakyamuni Buddha. It is because he had an insight in the truth of dependent origination. He know why all this are happening. Okay, when we know, then there won't be fear. there won't be fear of death. There won't be fear of aging. There won't be fear of sickness, because we know this is part of life. We know that why it happened. Okay, it is through the understanding of dependent origination. So conclusion, a doctor can prescribe medication to a patient, but no one can force the patient to take it. If the patient does not take it, he or she may never recover. In the same way, even though Buddhist practices can heal the illnesses of our mind, but if one refuses to practice them diligently, okay, will our disease be cured? Okay, so even though the Buddha shared with us different ways of practices, if we don't apply it in our everyday life, if we don't reflect upon it in our everyday life, we will not be able to solve the problems that we experience every day. Okay, so this is what I would like to share with everyone today. So let us go to Q&A. Anyone has any comments or questions for today's sharing?
Yes, Venerable, there are a few questions in the chat. I can read them out. I think the first one is from Denny. He would like to share something. Denny?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Venerable. This was a very incredible talk, Dharma talk. I think you have a lot of wisdom and insight that you gift us with. And I was particularly struck with your connecting dukkha with the underlying feeling of fear. And in essence, anger, which was originally one of the three poisons, as you identified with, underlying anger is oftentimes, that's a secondary emotion. Underlying that is other emotions, primary ones like fear, as you mentioned, and another one is hurt, interpersonal hurt, or possibly even physical hurt that causes us to lash out. But my thoughts on that is, and I try to deal with this as a male when I'm angry. I ask myself, okay, what's going on here? And it's hard for a guy in our society to identify and admit to fear or hurt, because we've been taught that these are sissy emotions, that for a guy, we're supposed to be macho, we're supposed to be James Bond, you know, and so it's harder for us to make that journey. And oftentimes I struggle with that. And I think a lot of men do as well. But what helps me in that journey is that in looking for the source of my hurt or my dukkha, my hurt or my fear, I remind myself of a very pithy mantra. Nothing is ever permanent, personal, or perfect. And that really encapsulates a lot of Buddhism right there. I know things will change. So that helps deal with the momentary disease. And I know things aren't ever going to be perfect. None of us get through life without experiencing dukkha. And also personal. We all experience it. We're all in the same boat and stuff. So it helps me to remind myself of something like that. But the bottom line is I tell myself, hey, I'm not James Bond. I shouldn't try to be James Bond. And in fact, James Bond, I don't want to be licensed to kill, you know? So anyway, those are some commentaries I had, but I think your talk was just wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Danny, for your comments. Yeah, of course, like sometimes like the social pressure is not easy to handle, whether it is for a man or a woman or for a kid, a child. That's always there. The social conditions, they are all present in many times. But we have to remind ourselves, whatever that we do, we try our best. Okay, there's no perfect. Okay, even though like for the Buddha, we know that the Buddha is enlightened ones. It's not like just one lifetime, the Buddha just aha and realized full enlightenment. It takes 3 great couples, a long time, many lifetimes, like as a human, as an animal suffering in hell. There are many different occasions. The Buddha tried himself to reflect and improve life after life. Okay, so it takes some time, but as long as we are aware that whatever that we do is of wholesome, okay, we don't have to feel afraid. We shouldn't be fear of whatever that is coming. Okay, so there are many stories that I can share from the Buddha, but then it's just a reminder for ourselves. Whatever others say to us, we can think about it, we can reflect about it, whether it is true or not. But again, we try our best, always try our best. If we cannot reach that stage yet, it just takes longer time. Okay, we are not perfect, we're still learning, but we always remember every one of us has the Buddha nature. Every one of us has the potential to realize full enlightenment. As long as we keep on trying, as long as we keep on improving, it might not be this lifetime, but we never know. As long as we take one step ahead, one step forward, which means we're one step closer to Buddhahood. Okay, every step counts. Okay, thank you again, Danny. Okay.
And Venerable, yeah, there was also a comment from Chintan. He said, Venerable, your explanation reminds me of these lines from a Dharma text. If I need to comply with the doctor's advice when frightened by a common illness, then how much more so when perpetually diseased by the manifold agitation of desire and so forth. And this is from Shanti Deva's text, Bodhicharya Vatara, a guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. So just wanted to share that. And then Marissa had 2 questions. How does one tell between rest versus sloth, wholesome hobbies versus indulgent behavior? And then another question, also, how to improve without comparing or be okay with the expectations of others or ourselves that are not met? That is, if we are aware of the not fair feeling that arises, what do we do with it besides observing and contemplating that feeling?
Okay, thank you, Saiba. Yeah, so thank you, Chintan, for adding this verse. Yeah, of course, like just like my conclusion say that if we are being prescribed to take this medication, if we don't take it, who is to blame? Okay. So when the doctor gives us medication for us to recover, to improve our physical condition, of course, like we have to take it. But sometimes, of course, like in some situation, like for example, if someone is diabetic, having like high blood sugar, and then the doctor said that, oh, we have to take this medication. But some of us might say that, okay, give me 3 months. I'll try to control my diet and see if everything goes well. Okay, like that person might think of an alternative medicine, okay, by doing exercise, by eating more aware of like no dessert, no sugary things. One might opt for that medication. But truly, when it comes to our mental afflictions, it is like we have to really take whichever medication that is suitable to ourselves in solving our the 3 poisons, or in solving the problems that we have every day. Okay, thank you again, Chintan. Okay, and then for Marissa, you asked a very good question that I think that only ourselves will be able to understand what is rest and what is sloth. Okay, I do not have answers to that. It is because, just like what I mentioned earlier, we know ourselves better than any one of us. Okay, so if we are aware that we have tightened ourselves too much at work, or even like at a certain situation, then we have to ask ourselves to unwind a little bit, take a break, take a rest, and then I won't be able to tell you which is enough, what is sufficient, okay? But only ourselves will know what is enough in a way, okay? When it comes to wholesome hobby versus indulgent behavior, again, it's a question that we ask ourselves. Okay. I'm not sure if Marisa, you would like to add on or comments on this.
Yeah, I do apologize. My video isn't working, so you get to see my name.
No worries, no worries. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, just because I tend to work-wise, everything personality-wise, I tend to push myself and squeeze a day, maximize the day. But I realize as I'm getting more mature / older, my body doesn't want that. And it reminds me in hard ways not to do that. So it's just kind of trying to figure out where is it? Like where, because it's easy to just kind of go, call it a day and then call it, the whole day, versus not. And I have not completely understood my wisdom of knowing what's what yet. So I'm contemplating that and just trying to figure out, what is, and then you get in this, I realize sometimes you, at least for me, I get in a cycle of judgment too, when I feel like, oh, I indulge too much of quote unquote slothness or laziness when I may or may not actually need it. I don't know, either way. Then you get into this weird cycle of judgment, like I should not have slept 2 hours after work or something like that, when sometimes we might actually do need it. So it's interesting. I don't know the middle path yet.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Marisa, for adding on to this. Just to share my personal experience, when I have a full day, okay, even though towards the end of the day, I might feel tired, but in my mind, I'm always filled with joy because I managed to finish whatever that I have for the day. Okay. Even though, like, of course, like, as our physical body changes or age, we call it aging, day after day, sometimes our physical body might not cope with what we have in our mind. But by practicing meditation, we can start with being aware of our physical conditions. That will help us know what is our limit for the day. Okay. But for myself, like sometimes like I might have many things to do. I might have finished a few things a day, but usually I will feel happy. I feel joyful towards the end of the day. If I don't finish whatever that I need to finish by that day, towards the end of the day, even though I want to call it a day, like go to sleep, I won't be able to sleep because my mind is still working and thinking, even though the physical body is not moving, but the mind is still thinking about it. Yeah, so again, this is according to, we have to understand ourselves, what is enough, what is sufficient, when it is time for us to call a day. Okay, and for your next question about like the not fair feeling, besides being aware of that feeling, it is also important for us to really try to remind ourselves that every one of us has their own capabilities. Every one of us has our own causes and conditions. Okay, so even though sometimes we might feel not fair, why me, why this, there's always reasons behind whatever that is happening. Okay. And then first, we won't be able to control others. Second, we already tried our best. Okay. Third, whatever that happened, it had happened. Okay. Even though we might have a feeling of not fair, but this feeling, where does it come from? It comes from our mind. It comes from ourselves. It comes from our personal view. It comes from how we see things as per how we see it. It is not based on a very general comments. It's not coming from a general public. It's not coming from a bigger picture. It's just coming from ourselves. Okay. So we might have that feeling from time to time. But again, we can remind ourselves about what I've shared earlier. Okay.
Thank you so much for your wisdom.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you. Because of the time, can you go back to the slide? Oh, okay. About the slides, I will share it in our Google Classrooms after the class. So Chintan, you don't have to worry about that. I will share my PowerPoint in the classrooms. And because of the time we have gone over our time, so sorry. Let me do the sharing to conclude our session for today. Okay, let us all join our palms. May kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity pervade all worlds. May we cherish and build affinities to benefit all beings. May Chan, Pure Land, and precepts inspire equality and patience. May our humility and gratitude give rise to great vows. So for next Saturday, I'm going to share with everyone a topic on the interconnectedness between our body and our mind. It's like taking a little bit one step further in looking at the details of the interconnectedness between the physical and mind. Okay, and some of you were asking like what to read. In this class, I still hope that everyone be more familiarized with the Medicine Buddha Sutra. I posted in our Google Classroom, the class material is a translation from Chinese to English. And I've also included under syllabus and other references, I share with you a Google document. In that list of references, you will be able to find small ebooks with the topic of Buddhism and healing. You can also spend some time to read about it, and also the Buddhism, medicine, and health. Okay, all the small booklets, this ebooks is to kind of like access the commentaries to the Medicine Buddha Sutra. It helps us to better understand the practices of Medicine Buddha. Okay, so I hope that this session is beneficial for everyone, and I hope to see everyone again next Saturday. And if you have time, please click on the invite and go to the Google Classroom to find all the materials, the syllabus, and everything there. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you. Amitabha.
Thank you, dear Shifu. Amitabha. See you, everyone. Amitabha.
Bye.
Have a nice weekend, everyone.